Hi, meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Wednesday morning, December 22nd. One low pressure system is pushing off the eastern seaboard. This morning it will intensify over the next few hours, and that will result in increasing northwesterly winds across the mid-Atlantic region, the northeastern part of the nation. Meanwhile, a series of storms will pound the western part of the nation over the next several days, producing some significant coastal rains, heavy rainfall in the low-lying areas, and substantial snowfall in some of the higher elevations, interior part of the western U.S., ranging from the Cascade Mountains of Washington and Oregon all the way down to the Sierra Nevada mountain range in eastern California. This is a map from last night's zero-Z run of the GFS for the total snowfall over the next 10 days. Again, the next 10 days going all the way out to about the New Year's Day. And look at all this snow out here in the higher elevations from the Sierra Nevada mountain range all the way up into Washington, Oregon, and even into southwestern part of Canada. Some immense amounts over the next 10 days. This is an 83-inch deposit of snow here as depicted by last night's zero-Z run of the GFS in the higher elevations of western Oregon. Some decent snowfall over the next 10 days across the northern plains, the upper part of the Midwest, and it's an active weather pattern for the northeastern part of the nation, and that will produce some decent snowfall upstate New York and New England over the next 10 days or so. Meanwhile, New York City down to D.C. still just on the doorstep of some snowfall, not looking all that promising for snow over the next 5 or 10 days in the I-95 corridor region of the Mid-Atlantic region. Well, let's take a look at the operational run of the GFS. This is a zero-Z GFS model run. We'll look at 500 millibar height anomalies, then the temperature anomalies at 850 millibars, and then we'll finally wrap up with the surface maps. And first of all, let's focus in on the west coast here, because there will be a series of upper level lows spinning around, pushing in off the Pacific Ocean into the western part of the nation. And again, this will result in several days, an extended period of time, right through the upcoming weekend, of snows in the higher elevations and rains in the lower elevations out across California, Washington, Oregon, and even some of the Rocky Mountain states will get some significant snowfall over the next 5 days or so. In the east, we're starting off today here on Wednesday with upper level low pressure, and this is associated with that coastal storm that again will push off the east coast over the next few hours and intensify, and increasing northwest winds will be the result in places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. Let's move forward here from Wednesday morning. Now this is Wednesday. This is now Thursday morning, and notice upper level low pushing in off the eastern part of the Pacific Ocean into the western U.S. A lot of activity over the next several days with generally weak to maybe moderate low pressure areas cutting across from the west to the east across the Great Lakes into the northeastern part of the nation. And again, that can produce some snowfall, warmer than normal conditions with high pressure ridging, the main theme here in the middle part of the nation as we close out this holiday shortened week. But here's storm system right here. Here's another upper level low right off the Pacific Northwest coast as we get into Christmas Eve morning. This is Friday morning here, and just a kind of a parade of storms that drops to the south and east, and notice ridging across the southern part of the nation, and still upper level low just hanging around. This is all the way now into Sunday morning. Here's another wave going into the northeastern part of the nation, and we move forward here into the early part of next week, and just kind of a rotation going on out here with upper level low after upper level low pounding the west coast, again all the way from British Columbia in southwestern Canada down across Washington, Oregon, into California over the next 5, 6, 7 days or so. Meanwhile, nice weather pattern shaping up over the next several days across the southern part of the nation. Let's go a little bit farther in time, all the way to Tuesday morning, and here we go. Still upper level low, the theme across the interior western U.S., and ridging, hanging on across the Ohio Valley and the Tennessee Valley. This is next Tuesday morning. Well, how does this translate into the temperature pattern? I will say this, there's been some extremely cold air up across Alaska that has dropped into the western part of Canada, and some of that will seep into the Pacific Northwest, really in the Friday, Saturday, Sunday time period. And places like Seattle and Portland will get very, very cold relative to normal for this time of the year. A little bit of a cold shot comes in following this coastal low in the mid-Atlantic region of the northeast U.S. Again, riding in on increasing northwest winds today. Here we go, that pushes in during the day today, and a cold night with a wind continuing to blast in from the northwest and pushing in this colder air here. Meanwhile, out across the middle of the nation, warmer than normal conditions. But let's now watch this pattern out in the Pacific Northwest. And again, some very, very cold air across western Canada will seep into the northwestern part of the nation, really from the Dakotas across Montana and ultimately into the Pacific Northwest. This is now Saturday morning. Let's go all the way into Sunday morning. Just some very, very cold air here across the southwestern part of Canada. It filters all the way southward to San Diego part of California, all the way into Southern California, and extends eastward all the way across Montana into the Dakotas. Places like Glacier National Park will be very, very cold over the upcoming weekend. And again, Seattle, Portland can experience some bitter cold conditions in this pattern over the upcoming weekend into the early part of next week. Meanwhile, a different story down across the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, into the southeastern states. This is the Monday afternoon forecast map, and it remains warmer than normal in that part of the nation. Well, let's wrap up with the surface forecast maps. By the way, there's some icy road conditions right now across, let's say, east central Pennsylvania, northeastern Pennsylvania, and interior New York and thereabouts, as the rain from the overnight hours has departed, but skies have cleared enough to allow temperatures to drop to the freezing mark again. Lehigh Valley, Poconos, all the way up into the Hudson Valley. Watch out for some icy road conditions with freezing rain over the next few hours. This storm system pushes off, continues to push off and intensify. And look at this pressure gradient pattern right here between the departing low pressure area right here and an incoming high pressure. This pressure gradient right in between these two systems will allow for strong northwest winds later on today, really from midday on through the afternoon and through the evening hours. Places like DC, Philadelphia, New York City, and surrounding suburban locations. Meanwhile, out in the west, storm after storm will impact the western U.S. over the next several days. Here we are now into tomorrow morning. High pressure pushes over into the mid-Atlantic region. Winds will subside on Thursday. Basically a cold and dry day for the Thursday, December 23rd. Meanwhile, heavy snows start to pile up in those higher elevation locations all the way from southwestern Canada, interior western Washington, interior western Oregon, down across eastern California here, and we'll just move forward. Here's one wave of low pressure by early Friday morning that can produce some snow, let's say upstate Pennsylvania, New York State, interior New England. This is again later Thursday night into Friday morning, and here out in the west, Sierra Nevada getting pounded with snowfall. Heavy rain all the way down to Southern California by Friday morning. This is all the way down to San Diego. Again, low-lying coastal areas from Washington to Oregon to California, Southern California, all the way down to Southern California, will get significant rainfall, and interior, higher elevation locations, substantial snow over the next several days. Let's keep moving forward, and here we go. Christmas Day itself, southwesterly flow of air here on the front side of this low pressure area right in this region will push warmer than normal air all the way up through the Tennessee Valley, the Ohio Valley, and even into the Mid-Atlantic region. Probably 50 plus degrees in DC on Christmas Day, maybe even 50 degrees in Philadelphia on Saturday, Christmas Day, in the southwesterly flow ahead of this low pressure area. And meanwhile, out in the west, continuing to get pounded by storm after storm. And this is a time where bitter cold air starts to seep in from western Canada into the Pacific Northwest, all the way extending to Montana and the Dakotas. This will act to lower the snow levels this upcoming weekend in places like Washington and Oregon. Again, a continuation of storm after storm. Meanwhile, on Sunday, pretty healthy looking storm here, producing some accumulating snow. Again, really confined to areas, let's say, far northern Pennsylvania, then upstate New York into New England. This could be a decent snow event for upstate New York and New England at the end of the upcoming weekend. And that pushes off another cold air mass, pushes into the northeastern states, and then another wave that pushes it in from the western part of the nation into the center part of the nation by the early part of next week. Something we'll have to monitor over the next several days. It could impact the upper part of the Midwest with decent accumulating snow, and maybe, again, places like upstate Pennsylvania, New York, early next week, New England with some snowfall here. An active weather pattern, especially hard hit, will be the western U.S., and that 1041 high pressure system over southwestern Canada early next week is really the core, the center core area of a very, very cold air mass that again will seep southward into Montana in the Pacific Northwest, extending all the way into the Dakotas. That's it for now. I'm meteorologist Paul Dorey.